All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning, I'm V. Ravi Kumar and with me is Sunil Verma. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on a two-day visit to Germany tomorrow to attend G7 summit. BRICS countries call for finalization and adoption of comprehensive convention on international terrorism within UN framework. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari approves draft notification to introduce Bharat New Car Assessment Program for ensuring passengers' safety. NIA conducts searches at 6 locations in Firozpur, Fazilka and Taran Taran districts of Punjab in connection with Jalalabad IED blast case. 26/11 Mumbai terror attack handler once claimed to be dead arrested in Pakistan. IMD predicts heavy rain in parts of West Coast during the next 4 days. US Supreme Court overturns a 50-year-old ruling that recognized women's constitutional right to an abortion. And in cricket, Indian women's team to take on host Sri Lanka in the second T20 International at Dambulla this afternoon. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Schloss Elmau, Germany tomorrow for the G7 summit at the invitation of Chancellor of Germany Olaf Scholz. Briefing media in New Delhi, Foreign Secretary Vinay Mohan Kwatra said, besides India, Germany has also invited Argentina, Indonesia, Senegal and South Africa to the summit. He said during the visit, the Prime Minister will hold bilateral meetings with the leaders of G7 and guest countries on the sidelines of the summit. Mr. Kwatra said the Prime Minister is scheduled to participate in 2 sessions at the G7 summit on Monday. The first session relates to climate, energy and health, and the second session is on food security and gender equality.
The Prime Minister will hold bilateral meetings and discussions with the leaders of the G7 as also the guest countries on the sidelines of the G7 summit. The Prime Minister is also scheduled to have an interaction with the Indian diaspora at a community event during his stay in Germany for the G7 summit.
The Foreign Secretary said Mr. Modi is scheduled to have an interaction with the Indian diaspora at a community event in Germany. He said after attending the G7 summit, the Prime Minister will be travelling to the United Arab Emirates UAE on Tuesday to pay personal condolences on the passing away of Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the former UAE President and Abu Dhabi ruler. Mr. Kwatra said this will be the Prime Minister's first meeting with Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan since his election as the new President of the UAE and ruler of Abu Dhabi.
Prime Minister will be travelling to United Arab Emirates on 28th of June to pay personal condolences on the passing away of His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the former UAE President and Abu Dhabi ruler. This will be Prime Minister's first meeting at the same time with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan since his election as the new President of the UAE and the ruler of Abu Dhabi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi led India's participation at the 14th BRICS summit, which was convened under the chairship of Chinese President Xi Jinping in a virtual format. The 2-day summit concluded yesterday with the Beijing Declaration. The declaration says that BRICS countries support talks between Russia and Ukraine. They discussed concerns over the humanitarian situation in and around Ukraine and expressed support for the United Nations, UN agencies and Red Cross to provide humanitarian assistance. The BRICS declaration also stated that terrorism should not be associated with any religion, nationality, civilization or ethnic group. The summit called for finalization and adoption of the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism within the UN framework. The member nations called for policy coordination for economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. The BRICS countries agreed to promote consumer protection in e-commerce. They agreed to strengthen exchanges and cooperation in trade and services. The Beijing Declaration says that the BRICS high-level dialogue is an opportunity to deepen the cooperation on the fight against COVID-19, digital transformation, resilience and stability of industrial and supply chains and low-carbon development. In a statement, the External Affairs Ministry said Prime Minister Modi highlighted India's development partnership with Africa, Central Asia, Southeast Asia and from Pacific to Caribbean. He also stressed on India's focus on a free, open, inclusive and rules-based maritime space. He said India has respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations from the Indian Ocean region to Pacific Ocean. He also emphasized on reform of a multilateral system as large parts of Asia and all of Africa and Latin America have no voice in global decision making. Mr. Modi noted the importance of circular economy and invited citizens of participating countries to join Lifestyle for Environment LIFE campaign. Prime Minister Modi also emphasized that mutual cooperation among BRICS member countries can make a useful contribution in the global post-COVID recovery. He said the side effects of the COVID pandemic may have come down, but its effects are still visible on the global economy. On Thursday, the leaders of BRICS nations held discussions including in the fields of counter-terrorism, trade, health, traditional medicine, environment, science, technology and innovation. Prime Minister Modi called for strengthening of the BRICS identity and proposed establishment of online database for BRICS documents, BRICS Railways Research Network and strengthening cooperation between MSMEs. India will be organizing BRICS startup event this year to strengthen connection between startups in BRICS countries. On Thursday, an extended virtual conference of BRICS foreign ministers with other emerging economies was also held, which was attended by the ministers from countries including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Argentina, Nigeria, Senegal and Thailand. Talking to AIR News, former diplomat Ashok Sajjanhar said,
The BRICS summit in a virtual format has just got completed in Beijing. China was the chair of summit. There is a huge trust deficit. There is a huge gap in credibility. So the joint declaration, which has very strong words about dealing with terrorism, controlling terrorism, zero tolerance to terrorism, etc., we'll have to see how that is implemented in reality, because it is very good to have some statements on paper, but it will really depend on countries like China as to how faithful they are to their commitments.
Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari has approved the draft GSR notification to introduce Bharat NCAP new car assessment program, wherein automobiles in India shall be accorded star ratings based upon their performance in crash tests. In a series of tweets, Mr. Gadkari said, Bharat NCAP will serve as a consumer-centric platform, allowing customers to opt for safer cars based upon their star ratings while promoting a healthy competition among OEMs in India to manufacture safer vehicles. The minister said star rating of Indian cars based on crash tests is extremely crucial not only to ensure structural and passenger safety in cars, but to also increase the export worthiness of Indian automobiles. He said the testing protocol of Bharat NCAP shall be aligned with global crash test protocols, factoring in the existing Indian regulations, allowing OEMs to get their vehicles tested at India's own in-house testing facilities. Mr. Gadkari said, Bharat NCAP will prove to be a critical instrument in making our automobile industry Atmanirbhar, with the mission of making India the #1 automobile hub in the world. National Investigation Agency NIA has conducted searches at 6 locations in Firozpur, Fazilka and Tarantaran districts in Punjab in connection with the Jalalabad IED blast case. During the searches, digital devices, ammunition and other incriminating materials were seized. The case related to an explosion that took place on a bike near Punjab National Bank in Jalalabad city of Fazilka district. The investigation into the case has revealed that the accused involved were in touch with Pakistan-based terrorists and smugglers and were recruited for executing the conspiracy for carrying out terrorist attacks.
Pakistan has arrested a top Lashkar-e-Taiba LET terrorist and the main handler of 2008 Mumbai attacks, Sajid Mir. The arrest comes years after authorities denied his presence in Pakistan and even claimed he was dead. Mir was wanted by both the US and India for over a decade. As many as 170 people of various nationalities, including 6 Americans, were killed in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. Islamabad had kept denying Mir's presence in Pakistan to extricate itself from the Financial Action Task Force, FATF's International Terror Financing Watch List. The FATF has been keeping Pakistan on its grey list and used to monitor and isolate non-compliant countries.
In Maharashtra, the prevailing political situation post-rebellion of MLAs from the Shiv Sena continues to remain uncertain even after 4 days. The rebel Sena MLAs, camping at a 5-star hotel in Guwahati yesterday, authorized Eknath Shinde to take any future decisions with regards to the new faction led by the State Urban Affairs Minister. Consequent to Eknath Shinde's claim that he is getting support of more MLAs from his estranged party, one more Sena MLA, Dilip Lande, reached Radisson Blu Hotel in Guwahati, where the legislators have been camping since the 21st of this month.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people in the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio tomorrow. It will be the 90th episode of the monthly radio program. The program will be broadcast on the entire network of All India Radio and Doordarshan, AIR News website and News on AIR mobile app. It will also be live streamed on the YouTube channels of AIR News, DD News, PMO and Information and Broadcasting Ministry. AIR will broadcast the program in regional languages immediately after the Hindi broadcast. The regional language versions will also be repeated at 8 p.m. Earlier, Mr. Modi had said that he is glad to have received several inputs for this month's Mann Ki Baat.
All India Radio News has launched a weekly interactive program, Abhyas, for competitive examinations. It is aimed at reaching out to students and job seekers preparing for competitive examinations. The program is in Hindi and is broadcast every Saturday between 9:30 and 10 p.m. Every week a subject is chosen. Students can ask questions through WhatsApp or email and a guest speaker or expert responds to their queries. Questions on each subject are selected on the basis of crowdsourcing from the students across the country. The program also includes segments like Explainer, Fact File, Examination Calendar and Question of the Week. The 13th episode of the program will be aired today. The topic for this episode is internal security. All India Radio News has got an overwhelming response for the show with questions received from across the country. Major General Retired Dr. Sunil Chandra will be responding to the queries of the aspirants. This episode of Abhyas will be on air on 100.1 FM Gold at 9:30 p.m. today. You can access it on Twitter at AIR News Alerts or on AIR News official YouTube channel and also on News on AIR app. Also, for the next episode on 2nd July, the subject chosen is History of Modern India. Students can send their queries on WhatsApp number 928-909-4044 or mail on abhyas.air@gmail.com. The deadline for submission of questions is 29th of June. So join us at All India Radio News for Abhyas every Saturday at 9:30 p.m. on 100.1 FM Gold.
Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh have termed imposition of emergency in 1975 a dark chapter in history. In a tweet today, Mr. Shah said on this day in 1975, Congress snatched the constitutional rights of every Indian by imposing emergency. He saluted those who have dedicated their lives in the great sacrifice for the restoration of democracy against the dictatorial mindset. Rajnath Singh in a tweet said, imposition of emergency in the country 47 years ago can never be forgotten. He urged the people to dedicate themselves to the defense of democracy and take a pledge to maintain the dignity of the constitution and institutions. BJP President JP Nadda said, the planned and systematic destruction of the country's democratic institutions during the dark days of the emergency by the Congress party will never be forgotten. In a tweet, Mr. Nadda said, today the country is remembering the great heroes who fought to protect Indian democracy and constitutional values.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on a 2-day visit to Germany tomorrow to attend G7 summit. BRICS countries call for finalization and adoption of comprehensive convention on international terrorism within UN framework. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari approves draft notification to introduce Bharat New Car Assessment Program for ensuring passengers' safety. NIA conducts searches at 6 locations in Firozpur, Fazilka and Tarantaran districts of Punjab in connection with Jalalabad IED blast case. 26/11 Mumbai terror attack handler, once claimed to be dead, arrested in Pakistan. IMD predicts heavy rain in parts of West Coast during the next 4 days. US Supreme Court overturns a 50-year-old ruling that recognized women's constitutional right to an abortion. And in cricket, Indian women's team to take on host Sri Lanka in second T20 International at Dambulla this afternoon. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर।
8700014242।
India's COVID vaccination coverage has crossed 196 crore 92 lakh so far. The Health Ministry said more than 13 lakh vaccine doses have been administered yesterday. US Supreme Court has overturned a 50-year-old ruling that recognized the woman's constitutional right to an abortion. The Supreme Court, in a 6-3 majority ruling, upheld a Republican-backed Mississippi law that bans abortion after 15 weeks. The judgment will transform abortion rights in America, with individual states now able to ban the procedure. Half of US states are expected to introduce new restrictions or bans. 13 have already passed trigger laws to automatically outlaw abortion following the Supreme Court's ruling. President Joe Biden has slammed the US Supreme Court for ending the right to abortion, accusing it of putting women's lives at risk in the name of an extreme ideology. In a White House speech, President Biden said it is a sad day for the court and the country, calling the decision cruel and saying it takes America back 150 years.
And now, let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव। Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a Nation.
India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
In today's episode, we remember freedom fighter Sucheta Kriplani, who was born on the 25th of June 1908 in Ambala, Haryana. Sucheta Kriplani was the first woman chief minister of an Indian state, serving as the head of the Uttar Pradesh government from 1963 to 1967.
Although Sucheta was known for her iron will and steadfast leadership capabilities, she confessed to being a shy and self-conscious child. In her own words, it was only after witnessing horrific events carried out by the British occupation, most notably the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, that she developed a zeal for the independence movement and found her voice.
Kriplani studied at Indraprastha College and Punjab University. She chose to become a professor of constitutional history at Banaras Hindu University, as the university played a central role in anti-colonial activities.
At the Banaras University, Sucheta met the well-known freedom fighter J.B. Kripalani, who often visited the campus to recruit volunteers for the freedom movement. Later, the two worked closely on earthquake relief in Bihar in 1934 and decided to get married 2 years later.
But Kriplani was 20 years her senior, and the announcement did not find favor with either family. Gandhiji too wasn't pleased, as he felt that family responsibilities might divert Acharya Kriplani's attention from national work. However, Gandhiji later agreed, and Sucheta Kriplani also started joining actively in the Satyagraha marches and soon assumed a leadership role.
Kripalani garnered a public image when she joined the Quit India movement and began working closely with Mahatma Gandhi during the partition riots. She was arrested during the Quit India movement and kept in Lucknow jail till July 1945.
Sucheta's contribution to the freedom struggle was so significant that in 1946 she was appointed member of the Constituent Assembly. She famously sang Sare Jahan Se Acha in the Constituent Assembly on the 15th of August 1947 when India gained independence.
After independence, Sucheta remained involved with politics and was elected as Lok Sabha MP in 1952, 1957 and 1967.
In October 1963, she became the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, the first woman to hold that position in any Indian state. Although Kripalani passed away in 1974, she is still revered in India as a symbol of women empowerment. AIR News salutes the great woman freedom fighter.
We also remember independence activist Hassa, a resident of Amritsar, Punjab, who was executed on the 25th of June 1919. Son of Muhammad Sheikh, Hassa was active in organizing the Hartal on the 6th of April 1919 in Amritsar as part of the nationwide call of Hartal given by Mahatma Gandhi to protest against the Rowlatt Act.
Hassa was tried and convicted in the Amritsar Alliance Bank murder case by Martial Law Commission and executed on the 25th of June 1919. AIR News salutes the brave martyr.
We also remember Martyr Videshi Ram, a resident of Santhal Parganas, Jharkhand, who took an active part in the Quit India movement. Videshi Ram was arrested and imprisoned for his nationalist activities, and he died during imprisonment in Dumka jail on the 25th of June 1944. We salute the brave son of the soil.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
As our nation celebrates the 75th year of independence, a series of events is being organized by the government as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. To commemorate the occasion as a Jan Utsav, All India Radio News brings its listeners a special quiz on India's freedom movement and its glorious history. The next question of Amrit Mahotsav quiz will be shared with our listeners on Monday, the 27th of June. Celebrate 75 years of India's independence by participating in Amrit Mahotsav quiz with AIR News. Indian women's team will take on host Sri Lanka in the second T20 international cricket at Dambulla today. The match will start at 2 p.m. Indian time. Harmanpreet Kaur-led Indian women team made a positive start of their Sri Lankan tour with a convincing 34-run victory in the series opener on Thursday, taking a 1-0 lead. Chasing a target of 139 runs set by India, the hosts were restricted to 104 for 5 in the stipulated 20 overs.
In the Ranji Trophy final, Madhya Pradesh were 368 for the loss of 3 wickets in their first innings against Mumbai at the end of day 3 yesterday. Yash Dubey made a valuable contribution of 133 runs, while Shubham Sharma also scored a century, featuring in the second wicket partnership of 222 runs. Madhya Pradesh are on the verge of taking a crucial lead over Mumbai, which may be a decider in this final clash. Indian archers assured themselves of a second medal in the World Cup Stage 3 with ace duo of Abhishek Verma and Jyoti Surekha Vennam storming into the compound mixed team final in Paris yesterday. The compound mixed pair of Verma and Jyoti defeated Estonia's Robin Yachma and Lisel Yachma 156-151 in a lopsided semi-final. Indian Meteorological Department has predicted heavy rainfall along the west coast during the next 4 days. IMD said fairly widespread rainfall is very likely over Karnataka, Konkan and Goa, central Maharashtra, Marathwada, Kerala and Mahe and Lakshadweep during the next 5 days. It said Ghat areas of central Maharashtra and south interior Karnataka will receive heavy rainfall till tomorrow. Widespread rainfall is also predicted over northeast India and sub-Himalayan West Bengal and Sikkim during the next 5 days. However, the northwest and adjoining central regions of the country will witness subdued rainfall activity till tomorrow. Talking to AIR News, senior scientist R.K. Jenamani said,
IMD has given the active monsoon alert, that is the very heavy rainfall, orange alert for Maharashtra coastal area, that is Konkan, Goa, including Mumbai, and then also Gujarat and Karnataka. And presently, actually monsoon is subdued over central India, not much rainfall. And northeast India the rainfall has been reduced. And for the northwest India, it is mainly dry weather, no chance of rain, including Delhi till 27.
Senior IPS officer Tapan Kumar Deka has been appointed Director of Intelligence Bureau. The 1988 batch IPS officer of Himachal Pradesh cadre, Mr. Deka, is presently Special Director of the Intelligence Bureau. His tenure will be for 2 years. Retired IAS officer and former Drinking Water and Sanitation Secretary Parameshwaran Iyer has been appointed as the new Chief Executive Officer of Niti Aayog.
In Assam, the flood scenario has improved during the past 24 hours. Assam State Disaster Management Authority informed that the number of affected districts has also come down to 28 from 30. A total of 3,510 villages are still under the flood water, and over 265,000 people have taken shelter in relief camps. The situation in the 3 districts of Borak Valley continues to be critical. The US Congress has passed a gun control bill which is being considered the most significant firearms legislation in nearly 30 years. It imposes tougher checks on young buyers and encourages states to remove guns from people considered a threat. The measures enjoyed bipartisan support, with 14 Republicans joining Democrats in the House to approve the bill by 234 to 193 votes. Earlier, the bill also passed in the Senate, with 15 Republican senators voting alongside their Democratic colleagues in favor of the bill. It ultimately passed in a late night 65 to 33 vote. The bill is now headed to President Joe Biden to be signed into law.
Now let's have a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi will have a mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature was 24 and the maximum will be 40 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. Chennai will have a partly cloudy sky. Kolkata will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Srinagar, Jammu, Leh and Gilgit will have a mainly clear sky. Muzaffarabad will also have a mainly clear sky. Visakhapatnam and Bengaluru will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Hyderabad and Tirunanthapuram will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Guwahati, Imphal and Gangtok and Agartala will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Kohima, Shillong, Aizawl and Itanagar will also have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Shinde camp consolidates as Uddhav reaches out to Khadda, writes Hindustan Times. Sena leadership to meet today. 16 rebel MLAs to give notice, says the Hindu. Maharashtra power struggle heading to courtroom is the Economic Times headline. The Hindu Business Line reports Bharat NCAP crash test protocol cleared. Vehicles to get star rating. The paper quotes the Transport Minister saying that it will allow customers to make informed decisions and also help in exports. The Tribune reports Gujarat riots were not pre-planned. SE upholds SIT's clean chit to Modi. The Pioneer says J&K to host G20 leaders. Diplomatic win post Article 370. The Asian Age features a picture of the NDA presidential nominee Draupadi Murmu filing her nomination in the presence of PM Modi, Union Ministers Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah and other leaders. RBI extends card tokenization deadline by 3 months till September the 30th, says Financial Express. The Economic Times quotes RBI Deputy Governor as saying that the central bank hopes to bring inflation back within target in 2 years. The Times of India quotes a Karnataka High Court ruling and writes SC/ST Act case only if abused in public. And finally, the Statesman quotes the medical journal The Lancet and writes COVID vaccination prevented over 42 lakh deaths in India.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on a 2-day visit to Germany tomorrow to attend G7 summit. BRICS countries call for finalization and adoption of comprehensive convention on international terrorism within UN framework. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari approves draft notification to introduce Bharat's new car assessment program for ensuring passenger safety. NIA conducts searches at 6 locations in Firozpur, Fazilka and Taran Taran districts of Punjab in connection with Jalalabad IED blast case. 26/11 Mumbai terror attack handler, once claimed to be dead, arrested in Pakistan. IMD predicts heavy rain in parts of West Coast during the next 4 days. US Supreme Court overturns a 50-year-old ruling that recognized women's constitutional right to an abortion. And in cricket, Indian women's team to take on host Sri Lanka in the second T20 International at Dambulla this afternoon. For details of these stories, log on to our website www.newsonair.gov.in. With that, we end the morning news.